Hey everybody, Sean O'Connor here from Macabre Daily's Paper Cuts, and I have the newest and most exciting voice in horror fiction, and that's Kristina Ten.
Thanks so much, Sean. I'm so happy to be here.
This short story collection, Tell Me Yours, I'll Tell You Mine. By the way, gorgeous cover, fantastic title, and what is between these covers is going to mess people up in the best way possible. This is the most exciting short story collection I have read in quite some time, and that is taking nothing from the authors who I have reviewed who've done short story collections recently. But this took me to places that I wasn't expecting. I really want to get into kind of the theme of the entire collection. You do this fascinating thing where you take us from childhood to adulthood through the progression of the stories. And at the end, when I'm reflecting on the entire journey that I've taken, it is so upsetting. It is so. But I mean that I have to qualify that. It's so upsetting because it's so good, but you wrecked me in this collection, but it's what horror readers and readers in general, we know what we're looking for when we pick up a collection like Tell Me Yours, I'll Tell You Mine. But the fact that this is your debut collection is so painful to hear that you're so talented so early in your life that I'm green with envy. Look, nobody is watching this and listening to this to hear me talk. So let me ask you some questions. How? How did you take me through the process of putting this together?
Yeah, so tell me yours, I'll tell you mine, and thank you for your kind words about the cover. All flowers go to my publisher, Stillhouse Press. They did a great job with it. The cover design really I think suits the collection really well and
It does.
specifically pulls up on some of the themes around community and transformation, and also focus in on one of the longer novelettes in the collection called Bunny Ears, which is kind of smack dab in the middle.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
So yeah, I'm sure. So to I guess to put your mind at ease a little bit, Tell Me Yours is the first book that I have published, but it is the second book that I've ever written. I did read one, I'm sorry, I did write one collection just before this one, which hopefully I'll still work to get out into the world. I wrote both of them when I was in the MFA at CU Boulder. And the first collection shares some preoccupations, definitely, but it is working a little bit more in the fairy tale register, whereas this collection does kind of lean more heavily into horror and the dark and the weird and the strange. So basically, its genesis is that, when you apply to an MFA program, you pitch a specific project. And I pitched the project, I finished the project, and because I was in a 3-year program, I then had one whole year stretching ahead of me with no projects in mind. And my thesis advisor was Stephen Graham Jones, and I was
Oh,
determined to use my time well. I mean, as beautiful as Colorado is, and as much as you can definitely spend a year well just hiking all the mountains and canyons and rivers. I thought that I should try to put my head down and get another book out. And so, what I was thinking about a lot at the time was, my existing preoccupation with fairy tales and folklore kind of morphing into a specific preoccupation with child lore, or the folklore of children, the folklore that exists solely in the realm of children, that is kind of like mystifying and dangerous feeling to adults because it has nothing to do with us. Children invent it, they pass it on to one another. And I was interested in, I was looking back at the child lore I grew up with, and I was like thinking that it was all really, really messed up. And I
right.
was wondering why it was so messed up. So I wanted to put a little bit of pressure on that, try to figure that out, and also use it as a lens through which to explore agency and bodily autonomy, um, uh, which factor into child lore because that's this time in our lives when we don't have a whole lot of that.
It's true. The themes of the collection, I mean, we've got, belonging and integration and feminism and queerness and, just there, each and every story as it progresses. And it's not like you're just hitting this gong and it's just so apparent. They're just so subtle, and it's the experience of the characters. And as you get to the end of the story, it kind of, it's like it blossoms. It becomes, at least it does for me. Maybe I'm a little thick, but it becomes apparent at the end. I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. Upon reflection, I'm like, I think I get it. I think I understand what this is trying to say once I get past the immediate level of like, boy, did this wreck me, and
Mhm,
get deeper into it. And I think that is what I want to say about this collection is that you can dine out on the stories as they are the reading experience. They're so engaging. Some are so horrifying. Some are so unsettling. I should actually say they're all unsettling, but purposefully and exquisitely. But I found myself going back, and so much so that I actually maybe I became a little obsessive. I actually started listening to some of the stories that I could find, on Spotify,
yeah.
or Amazon Music, and I really was enjoying the audio experience as well, and I highly recommend, that everybody buy the book.
Mhm.
Buy the book, people, but I do recommend after because you must read. I'm kind of a staunch advocate of that. You really have to read, period.
Yeah.
So if you want to support that with listening to an audiobook, by all means, have at it, which I do. But please read the collection first because your prose and the way you structure your stories, case in point, bunny ears, I think, is what the collection is going to be known for.
Mhm,
I'm already seeing that in reviews. I
mhm.
will certainly highlight that in my own as well. Viewers and listeners, it is going to be a 5-star review. No notes. This debut collection is honestly is groundbreaking, and I don't say that lightly. It it is unlike any collection that I've read in quite some time. It took me in new directions. It opened me up to things that I had no experience with that were fascinating to me.
Mhm.
And yeah, it just and but it rocked my world. It really messed me up. Christine really did. But
Man, that's
I
wonderful
just
and terrible to hear.
but it's everything that, like I said, for the audience that you initially want to gravitate toward the collection, boy, oh boy, are you going to be ready for some accolades. But my point being is, I'm seeing it already because I started to read some reviews. They are pointing out bunny ears. Is it okay if we discuss Dizzy Game?
Yeah, of course.
This is my favorite story in the collection. What it's Lovecraftian
Mhm.
to a certain extent. I don't. Oh, by the way, this is going to be a spoiler-free discussion because I'm not going to rob anybody of any ending. Go out and get this collection. What you did with just a few asides in that story were better than some of the novels that I've read lately. Your economy and what you do within that space and the scope of a story that you can tell within 8 pages.
Mhm.
Kristina Ten, I mean, explain yourself. How do you how let me put it into a question that makes sense in a language we both understand. How many rewrites, or is this you just are you a pantser, a plotter? Are there multiple rewrites involved? How much do you work on your stories to get them to this razor sharp weapon of words?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so I, until recently, was teaching, and that revision, I always said that like I was teaching introductory creative writing students, so they were 18 and 18 to 21, and a fair number of them didn't have a creative writing or English focus. They were taking some of these classes as electives, and I always said that like what I was trying to get across, just as much as the basics of elements of craft and the basics of, you know, being a good literary citizen and member of the literary community, was like revision. Revision is a huge part of the process. It doesn't end at the first draft. It is just starting at the first draft. You know, I think, as will be apparent to anyone who reads the collection, it's really preoccupied with language,
Yes.
um, both on the level of just like, I I love to play with language. That's one thing I love about the short story format. And also, the collection is concerned with language as a tool, as a tool used by, um, you know, communities trying to make connections, and as a tool by the state trying to control its population. And so with Dizzy Room, you know, the root of it was that I really wanted to think about an unorthodox monster. I wanted to think about um, a monster that was an institution. And in this case, the institution is assimilation, and what is gained and what is lost, like what is traded um, for this promise of fitting in. And is that promise fulfilled? Um, and so, to answer your question, short stories, for the most part, I write pretty clean. That still means that it will, you know, get at least a couple of revisions. I can be pretty obsessive on the sentence level. I wrote poetry before I wrote speculative or horror fiction. So I can really, you know, I can like put out a messy draft in like a day and then spend more than a week just like in the weeds of the sentences. But short stories I tend to write pretty clean. I just finished like the third draft of a novel, and that's a completely different animal. That I am not a clean writer, and I tend to be a little bit of a pantser with short stories.
Okay.
I'll start with some strong image, some metaphor that I'll build on and let it evolve naturally from there. But with the novel, I tried to do that and then very quickly realized I was in over my head and I just couldn't hold it all in. So I did do a fair amount of outlining for the novel.
Okay. All right. I love what you said about language because Dizzy Room, I mean, it's basically, we're taking language as a mystery,
Mhm,
or maybe an obstacle, then a mystery, and then a comfort, and
mhm.
then I don't want, then it's like dangerous
Yeah.
as well. I love that story so much. And I think I called it wait, I'm sorry. Hold on now. Did I get hold on. Christina. Oh, I did get it wrong. I called it Dizzy Game like a complete knob. Dizzy
Well,
Room.
Dizzy Game is the game inside
Inside.
the
Yeah.
story. Yeah. What's interesting, as a quick aside about that, is that if you like Google Dizzy Room or Dizzy Game, either of those things, a friend told me this. I haven't double checked it, but they told me that you know, like the AI overview at the top of Google, it says that Dizzy Room or Dizzy Game is a video game written by Kristina Ten, and then it goes on to describe the game. So
No.
it's this like kind of weird, like wall break, like
You're opening
um
up portals that should remain closed, all right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like making the world I wrote like real. It's very strange. So
That
maybe
is
this game
scary.
exists somewhere.
It's scary as hell, but I kind of love that. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, finally did something right.
I'm gonna actually gonna have to do it later to see.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to talk about bunny ears, and I hope you don't mind. Look, this is the beginning of the tour for you. I feel like you're gonna talk about this story endlessly, so maybe I'm getting it on the ground floor of.
Why? Yeah.
All right, good. Okay. Um, I do feel like the collection, upon reflection, years from now,
Mhm.
when people are talking about Christina Ten and that incredible debut collection, they're going to be talking about bunny ears. How long ago did you write the story? What was its origin?
Yeah, so bunny ears, I it was one of the I want to say like one of the last 3 stories I wrote for the collection.
Okay.
So it definitely came toward the end, um, once I had, like, worked up the muscle to write novelettes, and so that must have been in 2023. Um, and the origin was, like, back to child lore, basically, when I decided that that was going to be the linking force in the collection. Childhood games and rituals, and what they might have to offer us and why they were so messed up. I made a list of the ones that stick out in my mind, like kind of poke around in that space that's nostalgic, but not like comforting nostalgic.
Yeah.
That like nostalgia that you feel where you can't remember if it happened in your past or in like some show that you maybe watched once upon a time, like
Yes.
that kind of thing. So I made a list of those things, and uh, the bunny ears prank was one of those. And I was a summer camp kid, big time. I'm wearing my summer camp dropout shirt, which is what
Love it.
is, I guess I won't give it all away, but it pertains to bunny ears. But yeah, I was a summer camp kid. I'm an only child. I was like a loner kid. My parents worked all the time. And so, any parent can attest to like, once your kid comes home from school and doesn't have like that daily place to be every day, it like changes everything. And so I went to summer camp. I went to quite low budget summer camps. Kind of like the one in the story. They didn't have a ton of resources. They didn't have a lot of designated programming. They kind of just like let all the kids loose in a field, like made them run laps in the field, made them swim laps in the lake, like anything to tire the kids out. And I have this picture, like a Polaroid picture from those days of one summer. My 2 male cousins came from Russia to spend a few weeks with us, and they came to summer camp with me. And so it's like a row of us, super overexposed picture, and somebody's doing like bunny ears off in the back, but you can't see who it is because they're out of the frame. So that was the starting point. And then a lot of my feelings about being an only child made it in there. A lot of my feelings about being a tomboy made it in there as well.
All right. I mean, it's waiting there for readers. You get to it fairly quickly in the collection, and I don't want to give the impression like, oh, okay, I read Bunny Ears. Boy, oh boy, as these stories progress, we get into some heavy themes. I particularly, Melis for Melissa,
Mhm.
I, that that story shook me. I have 2 daughters. I have, 2 daughters, and I really loved what you were saying about the toxic nature of of essentially bullying and
Mhm.
image, and
Mhm.
again trying to fit in, trying to assimilate, and at that age, the worst thing in the world you can be is different. And it's
Yeah.
the same for your stories, that tackle the childhood era, and it really doesn't change in adulthood. I mean,
Mhm.
you and I both know that. We
Yeah.
just hide it. We hide it well when we try
Yeah.
to. but it just shakes me to my core, and the way that the ability that you have to wrap that around a story that's so unsettling, but like I said, these themes come through and they land, and it's just shattering at the end of it. But that one personally stood out for me for what you were saying about it. So I love that story, even though I wept openly. So
Yeah. Yeah.
as you have a little bit of fun, and I say that with, I'll put the the bunny ears around it. Is
Mhm.
some fun with adjective.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, so adjective, I was kind of playing with, moving, evolving from child lore, just thinking about other games, because, child lore specifically refers to like the lore that kids originate and teach each other. And Mad Libs aren't that, but Mad Libs are something I remember from my childhood. And I'm really drawn to experimental forms and to hermit crab fiction, and hermit crab nonfiction as well. And I'm thinking of, Carmen Maria Machado has this story, Help Me Follow My Sister into the Land of the Dead, which is in the form of like a GoFundMe campaign. And I've read stories in the form of crossword puzzles and like Waze driving app instructions. Those are by Evictus B. Carl. And I'm so drawn to like story formats that like kind of break the reader's brain a little bit and come a little bit closer to making the reader forget that they are reading a work of fiction on a page, kind of like muddling the boundaries.
Mm,
The same way that speculative fiction muddles the boundaries between like the real and the surreal. These things muddle the boundaries between like, wait, is this a short story or is this something else?
yeah.
So with adjective, I was really interested in like how those prompts could function and if they could bring a level of interactivity and a level of kind of tearing the page and bringing the reader closer in. And it's written in the second person as well, which I think naturally feels to some readers as very like interrogating.
Mhm.
Um, so the story is about identity and is about how hard it can be to assert your own identity when there are so many other voices in your life telling you who you are, who they think you are, who they think you should be, how hard it is to maintain a sense of self, um, and how easily swayed you can be if you don't have a strong sense of self. So I thought something that, a story with sections of sentences pieced out that in theory the reader has a say in, but in practice, those prompts are chosen and delivered to the reader, so it's a limited say. I thought it might be an interesting way to explore autonomy, um, which is something I think that I'm doing throughout the collection. Shortly before I wrote this, I read this story called The Visible Filth by Nathan Ballingrud. And I'm so taken with it. And I think that, it's one of those stories that I've read that I think explores a fear that I have always felt very deeply, but it's like a really complicated fear. It's hard to pin down. And the fear is basically like, if you don't have a strong sense of self, you're kind of an empty person. And if you're an empty person, you are more vulnerable to occupation by ghosts or evil or insert entity here. So that's what I was thinking about a lot while writing this.
Can I give you a compliment?
Of course.
It's funny. Yeah, who says no?
Yeah,
It's
go
it's
for it.
funny that you bring up Nathan Ballingrud because your collection, I think, easily could sit comfortably beside his collection. Michael Wehunt, who I just spoke
Mhm.
with not that long ago. Greener Pastures, The Inconsolables. Your collection could sit comfortably right between the two of them.
Oh,
And
thank you.
those are, I mean, those are like the Mount Everest
Mhm.
of weird and unsettling short story collections. You're
Mhm.
right there. You're immediately
Wow.
right there.
Wow, thank you. Thank you.
You earned it. Hey, look, you did the hard yards. I just read it. You were the one who actually had to write it. Okay, you mentioned that you're working on a novel. First off, I before I forget, to the viewers and the listeners, well, the viewers, please look below. There's going to be Kristina Ten's Instagram is right there. Please follow her. This is where you're going to update everybody on what events you have coming up and what you're working on, and also just the fun you're having in life. But more importantly, there's also going to be the link to buy the collection. So please click on it. This is well worth your time. And honestly, if you don't get it, I'll be mad at you. So there, for whatever that's worth.
Y'all don't want that.
No, I'm 5'7" of fury. But do me a favor and tell us what we can look forward to in the future, what you're working on now. I hope that I know you're on the tour and I hope you're hydrating, but I hope you're taking a little break.
Yeah, I am. I have at my publicist's recommendation have built in some breaks to head back to home. Home is Rochester, New York. So I have a couple of built-in breaks between stops. But I'm in DC now, heading to Rochester to do some shows in Western New York, then the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland. I'll be in the LA area in 29 Palms. I'll be in Cheshire, Connecticut.
Okay.
I'll be all over the place. And once that slows down, I'm going to get back into finishing developmental edits on my novel, which is supernatural horror set in like an alterations dry cleaning shop in a near future totalitarian state.
Oh my
So
goodness.
hard at work on that. And then I have a story coming out, I guess next month in November in this great journal I love a lot called Friction. And it'll be the fairy tales issue. And it is a fairy tale horror centered around a Slavic entity called Koshche the Deathless, who's pretty much like the baddest bad in all of Slavic folklore.
Tempt me with a good time, why don't you? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, this sounds fantastic.
And it's about wedding planning, which is a different kind of horror that some people might be able to relate to.
Barely survived that the first time. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. This has been fantastic. Look, I know that excuse me for gushing, but when I literally stumble across an author like yourself who I know in my core is going to be a resonating voice in literature, not just horror literature, but literature in general. It's exciting for me. So, forgive me for, I'm excitable by nature to begin with, but I see great things in your future and this is just the beginning for you.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you for being such a constant champion of horror fiction and also for short stories. We need our champions for short stories, so I really appreciate it.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. And honestly, that's what I'm here for, just to amplify these incredible voices that you all have. Because you honestly, it's on your shoulders to do the hard work to get the word out about your books.
Mhm.
And if I can even contribute to that a fraction, I'm elated. So happy to help.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Will you promise me that you will come back for each and every single work that you have? I don't care if it's one short story. I don't care if it's three series of novels. Will you come back?
It's an easy yes for me every time.
Yay! All right. Hey, look, I want you to enjoy the hell out of this tour. Post about it, update everybody, and we're just thrilled for you.
I sure will. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You got it. And do me a favor, stay the hell away from that carnival in the parking lot, okay?
I can't make any promises there.
All right. Oh, this could be goodbye.
All
Bye,
right,
Christina.
bye. Thanks so much. Take care.
Anytime.